I feel about snow is that, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well, it has this incredible capacity to quiet sound, right? Snowflakes can absorb sound, and when you come out in a storm that's not a howling, like yesterday it was very windy, but when you find a peaceful moment in snow, it reminds me a lot of what meditation does for me, in the sense that, for me anyway, meditation almost is like this absorption of sound in my head, right? So when I quiet the mind, it's almost like what the snow does for the earth, where it's this quieting, this peaceful state that can come if you let go of, oh, I have to shovel, oh, I have to drive, oh, I have to do this, but just enjoy what it is. So coming into, I don't know if any of you have regular meditation practices, but well, I do know some of you do. But those, do you agree, Christine? You waved your head. Do you agree that kind of meditation has the same capacity for absorption of the clutter in the mind, to just quiet down? And when you have a skill like that, it's quite beautiful and very helpful when you need it. So if you don't have a meditation practice, what kind of practice do you have that cultivates that for you? Do you have any type of contemplative journaling, walking quietly, taking walks by yourself and being quiet in nature, meditating, the breath work that we do, your yoga practice in and of itself? There's so many opportunities for us to reach into this quieting state for the mind. So I encourage you to go out in snow today and find a little bit of that quiet if you can. We're going to focus, I'm sure all of you have been doing some shoveling, like probably 5 or 6 rounds of shoveling. So we're going to do a little bit of a practice to just support the back, because I know a lot of people can tweak their backs when they get out to be shoveling. So just a gentle practice to help us along our way. So first, close your eyes and think about the peacefulness of the snow outside. Hopefully you've at least looked outside today. And the way these individual snowflakes have such beauty, the way the snow glistens on a blanket of snow, or the way the sun glistens. So just visualize in your mind the feeling of that hopefully you've had even already today. You've been outside. And the feeling of crisp, fresh air. The feeling of the world slowing down a little bit, quieting. Can you translate that, all those feelings, into your own mind? This sense of being able to quiet the turbulence, become just a bit more still. And if you struggle with this, if meditation practice is difficult for you, let go of expectations around it. There's no need to think that your mind's going to be still. It's never still. Right? So it's just always the coming home into the stillness over and over and over. Bring your awareness to your breath, feeling the rise and fall. A sense of spaciousness through your lungs, letting your diaphragm be mobile, your belly mobile. Feel the base of your skull relax. And just notice that there's layers of noise inside your head. Right? You have the top layer, maybe the to-do list or the whatever you're thinking about currently, and you calm that down, and there's another layer of chatter, and you calm that down, and there's another layer of chatter. So just be present as you sink a little deeper, training your mind to stay on the breath. Can you relax your body? Is there tension anywhere that's creeping in? And as layers start to calm, what are you sensing in your body? Can you attune to the inner sensing, the interoception? How is your breath able to move? Do you have any discomfort? Do you have any absentee places in your body? Do you have places you're ignoring? See if you can welcome yourself home. Let's place our palms together at our heart and offer an intention. Maybe it's about quieting something in the mind, some channel that just doesn't want to go to a different station. Do you have a repeat thought pattern in your head? Maybe something entirely different. Whatever your intentions are, seal them for your practice. Know that your merits, your efforts, your presence has benefit for you and others. And then release the hands. And let's come onto your back. Okay. All right, so as you find your way onto your mat, as always, when we come horizontal, enjoy. So, it's a different quality of sensation when you lie down. And it's a different quality of sensation when you lie down on your back with all your limbs spread out. Okay. And it's a different quality of sensation when you lie down, when it's not just about falling into rest, okay, but falling into presence. Can you feel the spaciousness around your joints? Check in with your middle joints first, your elbows, your knees. Can you have a sense of wide open space in these joints? And travel where you want to travel. Do you want to go down to hands and feet, or do you want to go up to hips and shoulders? Just find a little bit of exploration as you lie here and breathe for a moment. It's a good place to check in and notice asymmetries, notice tension patterns, notice maybe some pain or discomfort you might be having. And then come into the breath and notice your breath. Notice how big it can get when you're on your back. There might be a little bit more ease to let your bottom rib cage flare and open. And then go ahead and bend your knees and bring your knees into your chest and rock a little bit. So if you have been shoveling heavy snow, just take stock. Notice if you need to be a little more careful in your practice today. How can you nourish yourself just right? So rocking from side to side, feeling that sense of massage across the back and sacrum. And then let's circle the knees. Let's go one direction. Paying a close attention to how this feels in your SI joints. And then go the other direction. And notice I didn't say which direction. So you definitely have a pattern probably of a well-grooved path of movement in your body. And this is probably not your well-grooved path. So just sense into that. And then knees together. And then bring the knees apart and back in. So just kind of swinging your knees, abducting and adducting your legs. Going out and coming back in. Just kind of lubricating the hip joints. Notice, if you have challenges with ankle, knee, hip, how does that show up in your hips, even if it's not a primary hip issue? Patterns show up in our hips, patterns of moving, patterns of sitting, patterns the way we walk, the way we sleep, it shows up, so just notice. And then right knee into the chest, left leg long on the floor, and get off your snow boot feet and get on your bare feet and wiggle things around. So roll your feet, enjoy how much space they have to be open without being shod. Okay, so wiggle, sway, swish your feet, anything that feels good. And then switch sides, left knee into the chest, right leg is long on the floor, and feel the ankles move again. Awaken the calves, the muscles on the outside of the calves, your peroneal muscles outside of the shin, even the front of the shin. Can you get everything wake up a little bit? Good squeeze into the hip, and then take a deep breath, stretch your arms and legs Wide out on the floor, wiggle your fingers and your toes. Exhale, knees in, pick up your head and curl to a ball. Okay, find some movement. So opening up to spread our limbs out, navel radiation from center to edges. Exhale, those edges come back in toward the center. One more time. Opening yourself out. Exhale, closing yourself up. All right, go ahead and put your head down, feet down onto the ground. And let's windshield wiper our knees left and right, just going side to side. Start to check in. How is the back and twisting? We'll do a couple of gentle twists today, but nothing too extreme. We're just, whenever you're using your back in unusual ways like shoveling, we want to just make sure we're kind of going all around the middle, where we move into some flexion, some extension, some rotation, some side bending, to loosen everything up. All right, let's go ahead and roll over onto your right side. Okay, we're going to grab onto your left foot and stretch your quad while we're here. So open up that thigh. It's a little different than when we do a lunge on the floor and your hip flexors get involved. This is very isolating to the quadricep muscles. If you can't reach your foot, you can always grab a strap and put it around your ankle. Reach your tailbone toward your knee. Reach your knee away from your navel. See if you can find that extension, and then let it rebound all the way through to your crown. And then relax, 2 knees into the chest, rock a little bit. We're going to roll over onto the left, grab onto your right foot, and stretch your quad. If you can't reach your ankle, grab a strap and put it around it. You can always grab your pant legs too. Okay, so stretch the knee away from pelvis, stretch the tailbone toward the knee. See if you can feel that rebound through your crown. How's the breath? Great, and then go ahead and roll back onto your back. One more time, starfish your body open, expand through your limbs, and then exhale, knees into your chest, chin up. Roll over onto your side and come up onto your hands and your knees. So now we're up off the floor. Feel the difference when you have that sense of, just getting off the floor. Okay, we're here, we're moving, we're starting to invigorate our practice a little bit. See what it feels like to roll through your spine, through some cat-cows. Notice that you have a neck too, your head, your tail. See if you can feel the edges of your spine, not just the center. Are there places that are a little vulnerable that you need to care for? So bring your breath, bring your steadiness, your presence, so you know just where to go. And then come to a flat back. And we're going to just do a little bit of low back loosening. So first, just swish your tail. So side to side with your tail. Sometimes I imagine this is like how a fish swims. So you can let it ripple beyond your low back into the rest of your spine. Just loosening up a lot of the ligaments. And then come to a flat back again. Stretch back to child's pose. Let your hips descend toward the heels. And if your knees don't bend well or your hips don't bend well, walk the hands forward. Maybe even put your forearms down onto the mat so that you can find that extension through the spine, even if you can't compress in the knees and hips very well. Go where your body can go. Walk the hands over to the right side of the mat. Open up the side body. So feel this from your fingertips down through your ribs, all the way into your hips. See if you can have any missing links along that stretch pattern. Bring your breath to anything that's absent. And then come back to center and walk over to the other side. Inching to the left. A lot of weight coming down into the hips. Relax your head. Be where you are. So if your knees don't bend well, your hips don't bend well, you can still be doing this pose very actively with your hips higher. And then come back to center. Back up onto all fours. Have some swish and sway. And now instead of just going side to side with our spine, we're going to do some circles. So put a paintbrush on your tailbone and draw a big circle on the wall behind you. And just loosen up. There's a lot of stuff happening in your low back. So just see what it feels like to loosen a lot of your fascia, your ligaments, your tendons, and your muscles. Go the other way. So once again, this is probably not the pattern that's most defined in your movement. So notice that. Okay. All right, and then curl the toes under and stretch back onto curled toes. See, this is, you may not go nearly as far, so you can have your forearms up on the mat and spread open the bottom of your feet, especially if you've been wearing weird shoes the last couple of days that your feet aren't familiar with, like snow boots. Open up the bottom of your feet, spread the bones, find your breath. All right, and then spread your hands, tap your feet. You can smack them on the floor a little bit and curl the toes under and lift up to dog pose. So take your time. This might be tender for your body in some ways, so take your time to find your posture. You can drop into one foot and drop into the other foot. You can pedal, bending one knee and dropping the opposite heel toward the floor. You can lift a hip and bend the knee. You can find anything that feels nice in your body. Feel free to bend your knees as much as you need to. So having some bent knees can be very therapeutic for the spine. If you're struggling at all with low back pain, especially after shoveling, see what it feels like to have that sense of support by bending the knees in dog pose. You can even bend your elbows too, kind of plugging everything up into the torso. Find the breath. And then walk your feet forward and come into Uttanasana. Fold in half. See what it feels like to have some length through your spine. Bend your knees as much as you need and wag your tail here. What movement's going to feel good? You can bounce a little bit. There's all sorts of small little things you can do to make your back feel good. Inhale for a halfway lift. The spine is growing long. I got my blocks out, but you don't have to. You can keep your hands on your legs. Exhale and melt back down again. Bend your knees. Let the spine relax. Inhale for a halfway lift. The spine is growing tall. The sit bones are lifting. Stretch the backs of your legs. Exhale and melt back down. Push off your feet. Rise up, bringing the arms to the sky. Lifting your arms up. Open the chest now. Lean back a little bit. Cactus, open the arms if it feels nice. And then exhale and round in. Let's get the upper spine to warm up too. So broaden out the cactus chest. Exhale and round your spine, chin toward your chest. Interlace your fingers. Press your arms straight up. Take a deep breath, and we're going to come over to the side, finding that lateral bending. You can take your feet a little wider apart if you want. Inner spiral the thighs. Deep breaths here. Soften the shoulders down. Come back up, change the lace of your fingers, reach over to the other side. Try not to compress through your side, find length in both sides. Root your feet, inner spiral the thighs. And then come back to center, cactus, open your chest again, and release your hands down. Shake out your wrists. And then stretch your palms straight out. Spread your palms as wide as you can, like you're trying to make handprints on the walls next to you. Drop your shoulders. Lift one ear up. And then come back to center. Lift the other ear up. Just get some nerve glides through your hands. Shoveling, you may think it's all about your low back. Maybe it's just that I use my hands for my work all the time, so I feel it there. But I felt the shoveling in my hands more than they did in my back. All right, and then relax. Shake out your arms. Big circles. Open your chest. Find some warming through your shoulders. Okay. All right, take your feet hip width apart, and we're going to let the foot leave the floor. So we're not doing a locked-in twist here. We're doing a very open twist. So you can let the foot you're turning away from, let it pick up like a golf swing. I don't play golf, but I know that you're supposed to lift your foot up, I think. So just let the hips and the legs and the arms all follow each other. We're all going in one direction. There's no counter pose here. How's your breath? Let this loosen your spine. All right, and then come back to center. Take a deep breath in, arms coming up and wide. Exhale and fold forward. Bend your knees as much as you need. Bobble your head, relax it. Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale and melt back down. Blocks are great. Step your right foot forward, left foot back. Now remember, if your back is bothering you, any of these poses can be modified. You can slow down the vinyasa and just not do so much up-down stuff. You can put your back knee onto the floor for lunging poses. There's so many ways for you to support what you're doing. So find what's right for you. Stretch the back heel, stretch the crown, feel the length through the hip flexors, and let's start to bend and straighten the front knee. Tuck the chin toward the chest as you straighten your leg. It doesn't have to go all the way straight. Just finding the movement that's available to you right now. Great, and then let's go ahead and place the back knee onto the ground or leave it up. You choose. Find the openness through your heart. See how expansive you can get. So you have the sense of stretching and opening through the hip flexors of that back leg. And then release your hand, or release your torso down and walk your back foot forward, fold in half. Halfway lift, the spine is growing tall. Lift and widen your sit bones. Inner spiral the thighs. Feel the roots of your feet drop down as you lift the arches up. Unbind the knees. So if you're pushing the knees back, see if you can stretch the backs of the knees while the knees have a slight micro bend in them. Feel the spine growing longer. Lots of space for your lumbar spine. Then exhale and melt back down again. Step your other foot back. So now left foot is forward, right foot is back. Place your knee down onto the ground. Feel the openness here. See what it feels like to stretch through those hip flexors. Finding the breath. Relax the shoulders down. Breathing well. How's this side compared to the other side for you? Great, and then lift that back knee up off the ground. Feel the stretch through the back heel, extending through the spine, feeling that lunge. Root your feet into the earth. And then let's just come back and forth with a straight leg. What does it feel like to bend your knee? What does it feel like to straighten your leg? And remember, you don't have to go all the way straight. We're just moving into a range of motion to open up the back body. If when you straighten your leg up a bit, tucking the chin, you'll get a stretch through your sciatic nerve. It's like a nerve glide for your sciatic nerve. So if you are irritated from shoveling, just experiment. See what's available to you. All right, then find the lunge again. You decide whether you want your knee up or down. We spent a fair amount of time with it already down, so if you want to have it up a little bit, great. Just be where you are. And then we're going to place our hands down onto the ground and find your way back to dog pose. Widen the sit bones, bend your knees. Notice what happens when you have a softness in your knees. What happens to your back? Can you feel the release and nourishment there? Push off your hands and extend through your spine. And then walk your feet forward, fold in half. Okay. Take your hands on blocks, halfway lift. Then we're going to separate our feet to the outside edges of your mat, come up to stand. We're going to find some squats. So one of the best things to do when you have to lift heavy burdens like snow is to use your legs instead of your back. So let's just get used to our legs being active. So squat, don't let your hips go lower than your knees. Start to invigorate a lot of muscles in your legs. So get some blood flow into your legs, knees drawing back toward the hips, lift and spread the bones of your feet. Take your elbows to the inside edge of your knees, palms together. Find your breath. How is this on your hips and knees? If you need to modify, go ahead and modify. You can come higher. You can have your hands on blocks. Whatever you're doing, try not to lean into your dominant leg. So give way so that whatever's injured or history of, whatever kind of trauma you got in your joints, if you can find the comfort of the one that's a little weaker, a little less mobile, and then let the other match. Okay. Inhale, stand all the way up, arms coming wide, and bring your feet back in. Palms together at your heart. Find your breath. We're going to come into chair pose. You can take a block between your thighs to support your knees if you need to, or your hips. So you don't have to. If you want to have your legs together, great. But if lunging hurts your knees, having some support of a block can be very helpful. Squat down, sit bones wide, femur bones drawing deep into the hip joints. Your arms can be up, your arms can be out, your arms can be back. Find what's going to give you a sense of breath the best. Notice if you tend to lean into one leg versus the other. Here's this kind of tendency we have unconsciously to live in patterns of comfort. Move yourself. If you have a joint that's like, has a history, what can you do to favor that joint and give it what it needs? Breathing well. Spread out the bones of your feet. And then we're going to come up onto tiptoes a little bit. So lift your heels and just notice what changes. Finding the breath. And then we're going to stand up on those tippy toes, block or no block between your thighs. Lift your arms in the air. Breathing. Exhale, heels down, arms back. Okay, we're going to move a little bit through these rolling bridges. Inhale, up onto your tippy toes. Exhale, heels down, arm back. I just called them rolling bridges. Rolling chair poses. Okay, lifting up. Exhale, heels down, arms back. One more. Inhale, coming up onto your tippy toes. Don't worry if your balance is off. Heels down. Now stay low. Squat and either hold a block or have your legs together. You choose, but we're coming down. We're coming down as low as your body can go comfortably. Arms are back behind you. See what you can do to engage your core, to not let your back sag on your thighs. Breathing. Shoulders are away from the ears, triceps engaged. Hug the shoulder blades just a bit. And then come on up to stand, arms to the sky. Exhale, fold forward. Step your left foot back, coming into a lunge. Extend now through your spine and rise up, reaching the arms to the sky. Arms don't have to go there. They can go wherever they want. We're going to gently twist open to the side. So don't worry about going so far. Keep the shoulders dropped down. Open the heart. Breathing well. Root into the big toe. Stay connected with the inner thighs, moving to midline. And then rise back up, lifting the arms up. Exhale, bend down. Grab onto the blocks. Hop up onto your one leg. Extend that leg in the air. Feel your glutes turn on. Feel the length of your spine. Spread out the bones of your feet. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, one-legged squat. Support yourself with your hands. And then inhale and push that leg back up in the air. Exhale, come back to crescent lunge. Arms coming up again or not. Finding the breath. Exhale, hands down. Come back onto all fours. Have a moment of swishing, swaying. Notice your back. So this might be, if your back's bothering you, a lot of this back and forth stuff can be very difficult. So modify anything that you need. Come back to child's pose for a moment. Relax your head. Breathe into the back of your body. See if you can feel lightness, lift underneath the ribs. Feel under your sacrum lift up a little bit. See if you can get all this buoyancy. And then come back onto all fours. And we're going to lower ourselves down to the ground. Do a few rolls with your shoulders. Inhale, cobra pose, chest opens. Exhale, and melt back down. Okay, one more time. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, and release to melt back down. Come up onto all fours. Swish things around. Move some fish movements with your back or some circles, whatever feels nice. Let's go ahead and find our way up into dog pose. Extend your spine here. Finding your breath, breathing well. Get my clock nearby so I don't keep you here forever. And then let's lift the left leg up in the air. Exhale and bring that foot forward, finding a lunge. Gather your feet, so feel the roots, drop in. And then when you're ready, rise up. See where your body wants to be in space. Maybe the arms want to come up, maybe they don't. So just be where your body is most comfortable. Let the heart expand to your hands, wherever your hands ended up. Breathing well. All right, let's release the hands down onto the ground. Come up onto that one leg. Stretch your right leg in the air. Feel your glutes turn on. Breathe deeply here. Exhale, tuck in. Squat down, one-legged squat, tuck your chin. Inhale, push off that foot. Extend your leg in the air. All right, and then when you're ready, a giant step back, coming into a lunge. Rise back up again. Breathing deeply. And let's twist open to the side. So don't worry, you can keep your hands on your hips. You can bring your arms out, hug to the midline with your inner thighs. Feel the roots of your feet. Lift your spine and grow. Breathing deeply here. And then come back to center. Hands down onto the ground, dog pose. Feel the symmetry, relax the head down. Deep breaths in, deep breaths away. Come forward into a plank. Hold your body steady. Some of the most supportive things we can do to prepare for shoveling is to keep our core strong. So just see if you can start to sense into that transverse abdominis wrapping around your torso. And then put your knees down. We're going to bring our forearms down onto the ground. Stay on your knees for a moment. Have a breath. Move the shoulders away from the ears. And then we're going to walk our feet back and come into a forearm plank. So you can always have your knees down onto the ground if you need a little bit more support. And the other thing you can do is if it's too hard to be in a forearm plank with your knees up, try taking your knees down, but then walk your knees an inch or two back further so that you have a little less support than if they were closer. And that will give you even a little extra core intensity. So feel your shoulders move away from the ears. Find that breath. Feel this 360 wrap around your torso. All right, and then let's go ahead and lower ourselves to the floor. Take your arms back behind you. Palms facing down to the ground. Take a deep breath. Lift everything up. Your arms, your legs. The palms stay facing the floor. Breathe. Breathe into the diaphragm. See if you can feel the movement of your body as you breathe. Back of the neck stays long. All right, great. And then exhale. Turn your head one way or the other and just rest for a moment. Deep breaths here. Turn your head the other way. All right, and then come back up onto all fours. Have a moment of releasing the back. So swirling and swishing through your hips, breathing well. And then notice when you are on all fours, how is your back feeling? Have what we've been doing, the lunges, the ups and downs can be difficult for the back. So are you modifying just right for you? So we're going to do some cross-lateral work to just strengthen all those muscles along our spine. Lift your left leg in the air. Engage your glutes first. So find the big fiery muscles. And then refine from that. Inner spiral of the thigh. Engage along your back. Lift the right arm out in front of you. If your shoulder doesn't like that, you can bring it out to the side or even back toward the wall behind you. Stabilize through your core. So remember that forearm plank. See if you can find that whole wrapping around your back. These little muscles, the multifidus muscles along your back, love this pose. They get to fire up. It's a really good strengthener for your back. Breathe deeply. All right, let's place that hand and knee down onto the ground. So maybe swish your tail, maybe move some circles, whatever feels good. Changing sides. Lift your right leg, engage your glute first, so it's a big, strong muscle. Notice if you have more dominance on this side versus the other side. So where is your body in its strength patterns? When you're ready, lift that arm out in front of you, out to the side, or down next to your ribs. So wherever your shoulder mobility is today, doesn't really matter. See if you can find that integration of the left and right hemispheres of your back, as well as engaging through your core, hugging onto your spine from the front. Inner spiral your leg in the air. Find your breath. All right, great. And then go ahead and place the hand and knee down. Swish your tail around, move in any way that feels good. Dog pose when you're ready. Bend your knees a lot, curl your toes under. See what it feels like to have that sense of, you can even have your knees up against your rib cage, that deep of a bend if you want. Experiment, see what feels good. All right, and then go ahead and walk your feet forward, come into Uttanasana. Slowly rise up. So, a lot of times when your back is vulnerable, coming up can be very difficult. So when you're down here, if you know your back's vulnerable, keep your hands on your thighs to push, and then push your feet into the floor and use your core. So you're not coming up with just the strength of your back. Turn to the long edge of your mat, find the sideways, and spread your legs out. Coming into a goddess pose, so we're back to these deep squats. Open up through your hips, so hands on your knees to begin. You can kind of sway from side to side if you want. Let your hips and knees get used to being here, and then decide. Do you have an injury or something that's preventing you? Are you leaning into one side more than the other? Back away from the pose until the side that's vulnerable has a nice sturdiness to it. Doesn't matter if you're super high, find that sturdiness. Okay, and then go wherever your body allows you to go. Bring your arms out or up. Bring your hands in, whatever feels nice to you. Spread open the bones of your feet. Start to work a lot of different muscle groups. Spin your toes out, heels pull forward toward the mat in front of you. See what it feels like to light up some of those smaller muscles. And then also feel the big muscles. So imagine you weigh 1,000 pounds and push your feet into the floor like you're trying to stand up straight, but nothing moves. Just feel a lot of strength in multiple muscle groups at one time. Lift your chest and open your breathing. And then stand up straight. You can heel toe your feet in a little bit more. We're just going to do some squatting like that. So you might want to go much closer. You might want to go much further. So experiment. We're going to come down and then rise up. We're going to do this a few times. So adjust your legs. You can do this in a much more tight end squat. So find where you want to be in your body. Deep breath, open the chest. Exhale, squat down. Be mindful of the vulnerable side. Live there. Don't ignore there. Try not to always favor your stronger side. See what you can do to live in a joint that's had some trouble. And if you have no joints that have had some trouble, then you're just going to live in deep gratitude right now. All right, this last one we're going to hold. So whether your legs are far or whether your legs are close, whatever you're going to do, you're just going to hold the pose for a few breaths, finding that sense of strength. Imagine you weigh 1,000 pounds again. Push off your feet. Breathing. All right, and then rise all the way up. Reaching your arms, take your legs wider. Parsvottanasana. Bend your elbow onto your knee. Stretch open the chest and reach your arm in the air. Maybe the arm doesn't go in the air. Maybe it has to stay down for shoulder health. So be where you are. Open the chest. Let both feet plant well. Track your front knee and your sit bone in line with the middle toes. Try not to let the knee cave into the big toe side. Keep that back thigh moving back. Once again, 1,000 pounds. Push your feet into the floor. And then rise on up. Turn your feet to the other side. Find your breath. Bend your knee and come into Parsva Konasana on this side. Arm goes where you want it to be. Root your feet into the earth. Shoulders move away from the ears. Finding the breath. Open up the feet to whatever place you can. So feel that spin of the front foot. The toes move out, left toes move out left. Left heel goes right. 1,000 pounds of weight moving into the earth. All right, come back up. Back to the front. Turn your feet forward. And if your legs, you're still on the long edge of the mat. Feet are turning in if you need to. So toes can be straight or slightly turned in, whichever feels best for you. Blocks are nice if you want them. You can put your hands on them, your forearms, your head on them, whatever feels good. Stretch the hamstrings, spread out the bones of your feet, sit bones wide, and try to get the stretch in the belly of the muscle instead of just at the knee and the sit bones. All right, come back up. Turn back to the front of your mat, and we're going to walk our feet back, dog pose. So we're going to come into pigeon pose. But you decide, maybe reverse pigeon is a better pose for you. What kind of support do you need? Okay, let's lift the right leg up, stack open the hips, stretch through the hip flexor, and then square things up again and bring that foot forward. So I know I have one hip that's tighter than the other. So I absolutely need support underneath one side, sometimes both sides. So decide what kind of support you need, whether you want it just under your sit bones or under your thigh as well. If you're in reverse pigeon pose, you get to rest your spine on the ground and feel that spinal elongation. And if you're in pigeon, see if you can still feel that spinal elongation. Have your heel close to the pubic bone or pulled further out. Find and experiment what's going to make your knee and your hip feel best. Move the shoulders away from the ears. Find the breath. Inner spiral that back thigh. You can support underneath your head if you want with a block. Opening the hips can be some of the best poses that you do to help open your back. Let your exhales take you there, wherever there is. So find where your comfort place is, where your range of motion is. Be at the end point without crossing over a boundary. And then when you come out of the pose, depending on where you are, you can, if you're on your back, you can just switch legs. Maybe you're doing reverse pigeon pose on one side and not on the other. Maybe you're coming back into dog pose and lifting that leg up. Whatever feels right in your transitions. With the second side, if you want to start in dog pose, lift that left leg in the air, stack open the hip, breathe, and then square the hips again and find your way to pigeon pose on this side, left side. Support yourself however you need to be supported. So how many blankets do you need underneath that sit bone? Where do the blocks need to go? Where does your heel need to go? The closer your heel goes toward your pubic bone, usually the more gentle it is on your knee joint, but just experiment. You're in your body, so you know exactly where the pain patterns live, where the comfort patterns live. So you want to have the openness of the hip to the place that you're able to go without pain in joints, where you still can breathe, but you're coming to the edge of that place where you're at your end point without crossing over your end point. Sometimes it's very helpful to put blocks underneath your head. It can teach your nervous system, oh, I can relax here. Melt the shoulders, feel the spine elongate. Melt the face. You can have some muscular support of plugging the knees into the pelvis. And notice that this is an action that's very different than just gripping your hip. So see if you can have intention to your muscle activity instead of just a guarding or a tension pattern to prevent you from falling into too deep of a stretch. Place your body where it needs to be so that you're not vulnerable to that. So the work of the pose is just an activity of support. It's not one of preventing you from going to a place that's too far. Melt the shoulders, lengthen the spine, relax your forehead, deepen your breath. All right, let's go ahead and find our way out of the pose, however you find your way out of the pose. Breathing well, and come down onto your back. Bring your knees back into your chest and rock a little bit. Just nourish the hip joints. Let your breath deepen. You're going to come into, if your body's able to, first just stretch your legs out, back into a starfish. Let open the hip flexors, let them breathe. And then when we come back in to bring the knees to the chest, decide whether happy baby pose is a comfortable thing for your back. So this could be very good to stretch a lot of the muscles in your back. It also can be quite deep. So if this is too much, you get to back away and just hold your knees toward your chest. If you're in happy baby pose, pull your feet down, knees on the sides of ribs, lengthen the spine. See if you can move the sit bones wide. And then release and starfish open your body one more time. And then relax. Put your feet down onto the ground. Just a constructive rest position. And we're just going to very gently windshield wiper our knees. Okay, you get to decide how much twisting is nice for your back. And then roll over back onto your side, up onto all fours. Okay. All right, so we're going to pick up our feet off the ground and just swish our feet left and right, and turn your head to look at your feet. So just going back and forth very gently. Now this can be a great way to loosen those muscles of the low back. If you want something a little deeper, put your feet back down onto the ground, stretch your left foot back, curl your toes under, cross the left foot over the right foot, square hips and shoulders to the floor, and turn and look out over the right at your left foot that's on the right side of your mat. Breathe deeply. Okay. And then come back to center. Knees down, straighten your right leg, curl the toes under, Cross right foot over left. Square hips and shoulders. Turn and look out over this side. So turning to the left. Breathe deeply. If this is too deep of a posture, you go back to swishing your spine. And then come back to center and stretch back towards child's pose. Relax toward the floor. Breathe well. Now, the last pose we're going to do before Shavasana is leg up the wall pose. And you have a few choices for this. It's a great pose for your back. But if first of all, if you don't have a solid wall somewhere, you can always just put your calves up on the chair like this, or on a couch or bed. This is a very soothing way to do leg up the wall pose. You could go against a wall and bring your legs straight up the wall. You can have a bit of a blanket underneath your pelvis. Whatever feels good. I often like a little blanket under my head as well. You can go higher and put, multiple blankets underneath your pelvis so that you are a little higher. If your legs are straight up a wall, allow the femur bones to drop down into the pelvis. This is very nourishing for the back, to have some weight of the femur bones move into the pelvis. So see what you can do to release the heaviness of your bones, dropping down toward the earth, finding your breath. If you are not comfortable, change something. So this pose should be filled with ease. You should be able to breathe well. And your body should be very comfortable. If your legs are up a wall, you can experiment by bending your knees and putting your feet on the wall with your knees toward your chest. Supta Baddha Konasana legs with the soles of the feet together and the knees butterflied out. Turning your legs into a giant letter V and spreading your legs apart. Crisscross, like you're sitting cross-legged but against the wall. There's so many choices to do this pose. And if your calves are up on a couch or something, imagine weight. Imagine like a sandbag on your pelvis so that you're really nourishing the low back through this process. Whatever you're doing, you're breathing well. You can stay like this for Shavasana if your body's super happy. And at any moment, you can come out of the pose as well. When you do decide, if you decide to make a change, what do you need before lying down? Do you need to bring your knees in and rock a little bit? Do you need a twist? Do you need just something very simple like resting with your feet on the floor and your knees bent for a moment? And then assess if you are moving, and you don't have to move, but if you are moving, what do you need to be comfortable in Shavasana? Will you be comfortable flat on your back, or do you need some support underneath your knees? Whatever you're choosing to do, whether your legs are up the wall or on a chair or couch or flat on the ground, can you breathe into the back and feel the spine rest in its elongation? Can you feel the diaphragm take any attention away that might be there? See if you can feel the diaphragm let go. Your breath is deep, coming back to that quiet snowfall space inside the mind. Resting the ease of your eyes. The skull is dropping into the earth. Discovering your breath, noticing that your breath is a beautiful gift of presence. Let's begin to deepen your breathing again, finding your way into the breath as a gift. Can you feel that the breath is a gift, permeating your whole body? Before you move, can you drop your whole body down and feel the peace? And let's invite movement in. Find your way onto your side and then perhaps up. Place your palms at your heart and offer your practice. Share this presence. Namaste. Thank you, everyone. Hope you have a